Towson. Sure to get more fun here in 2019. Bill Cole joins us here from Cole Roofing. And first things first, dude, let's talk about weather and roofs and all that stuff, because the snow, the wind, the cold, this is a busy time for you, right? A slippery time, but a busy time, right?
Busy and not so busy. It's kind of hard to do a lot of work when there's 4 inches of snow everywhere. But the freeze-thaw cycle does tend to destroy roofs, which is probably good for my business and bad for everyone's mental health. Appreciate you letting me talk today. So yeah, we're in the tough winter season. Things will thaw, and then they'll freeze up at night, and they'll blow apart your roof flashings and things like that.
I've learned how that works, like with the tar, like where it expands and contracts. I saw that on like one of the Mythbusters or something, on TV, and I thought, yeah, there's seepage there, right? So, that's kind of how it works, right?
It is, and I think the best piece of advice I can give is, like, we do a lot of preventative maintenance for people, and it's like if we can catch that before it gets too big, then you're really just extending the life of your roof. So that's why we do a lot of preventative stuff in the fall, and then in the spring, before the big rains come and all that, just to try and, it's like, how do you keep that gash from getting bigger if you just do a little bit of preventative work in the beginning. So we like that, and we think that helps a lot of people extend their life of the roof.
Well, usually you do your Dr. Melfi work with me, in the middle, or we do your Cole Roofing plug. But I figure with the weather, it's a good thing to talk about, and people don't think about the roof. So we can get on to sports now. I want to do Ravens with you, right? And Jeff Zrebeck and I were texting back and forth. Yeah, Jeff
What are you talking about? The Ravens?
The Ravens, yes. Right. Jeff Zrebeck from The Athletic and I were texting, and we were doing that too. We were like, we're looking for some news. Luke and I were like, it'd be nice if they did something, or had a press conference, or Harbaugh showed up, or they had an extension, or they had a deal, or they introduced Eric on the job, or did something. I don't know what I expected last week, but I expected something more than silence. So I'm going to let that be. And the Orioles have done nothing. Their tickets aren't even on sale.
Hold on. You expected to be on a bus going to New England. That's what you expected to do, right? I mean, that's what we expected to, even though maybe we didn't expect that, we kind of expected that we were just going to win because, we kind of do that, and it got weird on all of a sudden we were winning and we weren't supposed to. And so I think everyone's still kind of trying to cope with the fallout of that. Like, hey, this wasn't how this story was supposed to go.
Well, as the master strategist,
even though it really was.
I still had my flight to Kansas City for the weekend, and we kept it. Once Kansas City won, we knew, and we're like, yeah, Patriots, Chargers, got some friends out there, got some barbecue, had a cheap room. The flight was on points. I had to use it anyway. And I was like, do we want to go to Kansas City? Then we saw the forecast, and we're like, how many degrees? 5, 8? I'm like, we're not going to Kansas City, so we can't. We're like, and then we realized then it's going to be 5 degrees here on Monday. That weather comes here, and that's why I guess I got to the roof with you and all that stuff. But my real story this week isn't the Ravens. It isn't the Orioles, who don't have their tickets on sale, and FanFest and all that. It's where are the Terps in all of this in the modern era, right? They haven't lost in a month. They're playing this big game Friday night against Ohio State. Then they have this huge game on Monday against Michigan State. The last I checked, the Caps are losing, so even if you're a Caps person, the Wizards are irrelevant. The Ravens don't play and aren't going to play, and quite frankly, apparently want us to forget about them for a little while until they wake us up again. The Orioles have... If John Angelos is out hugging Billy Joel, he's out in front of it. But if he wants to answer questions from a guy like me or give me a press credential, he's nowhere to be found. I find it interesting that Billy Joel is the biggest story of the Orioles summer on my mother's 100th birthday. But the Terps, to me, you more than most people I know, most of my friends, I was at Accelerant with you last week. If I would have identified how many people in any room are Terps fans, I mean, would know who Keith Booth if he was standing in the corner, would recognize Walt Williams if they bump into him in Hunt Valley one day at lunch, or Terps fans. You're one of those guys. You're a Terps fan. You went to Cole. You went down to Bird Stadium. You've been to games. You have a closet full of red stuff with Lamont Jordan or I don't know, Steve Blake on it or something. Where are the Terps fans right now? Because if you're not in now, right, when they're ranked and they're playing well, this is when you got to be in. If you have a hat from 2001 or two, you know what I mean?
Well, I think they're all coming out of the woodwork right now. I think it's you got to get past the football season. It's College Park is a little bit removed from us, so the Ravens are first, and
second.
College basketball doesn't matter until March anyway, so people are just now starting to awaken to the idea that they're good. I'm not quite sure how good they are. Like early season, I thought they were going to be really good. And then now, I think they're going to be good, so I'm excited.
They're not going to be. They are. They're a ranked team. They've won Big Ten games now. And look, that's what this weekend's about. How good are you on a cold night in Columbus? How good are you 2 nights later, 3 nights later, going up to East Lansing and trying to slay all the green Spartan ghost and all that stuff? That's the new era of basketball that 3, 4, 5 years ago, people are like, nasty. When's the Duke game? When they play Florida State? When they play in Wake? These are the games now, and I like the Big Ten. I like the Big Ten Network. I like watching the games. I like this team. I like Lindo, playing the Rodman role. And you only have to fall in love with them 4 hours a week, 6 hours a week, right? You just, Friday and Monday and make your time with it. You only have to give it 6 more weeks, 8 more weeks if they're any good, right? And I find it very easy to sort of fall in and watch them, and because I'm a sports fan, right? I mean, it's the one thing I'm sort of circling right now to put a little bit of focus on a couple nights a week and saying, maybe guys like you, Dennis, my friends we do radio with and sponsors and people, maybe we would want to all go have a beer and watch them play a game, when they're playing in the tournament in Chicago. I don't know, but I would like to think that if not now, when, right? I mean, we feel like they're going to be in the tournament, right?
Yeah, you probably got a couple things. So college basketball is still tough now because the names change so fast, right? The guys leave early, new guys come in.
No doubt.
You've got good players that I kind of fell in love with last year who don't get off the bench now. So that's weird. That's weird.
Well, if you're going to fall in love with Bruno Fernando, do it quickly. He won't be here long. Hurry.
Right.
That's what I would say.
I think that we're still reeling from not having Duke and Carolina and Virginia and Georgia Tech and Clemson. That's not our schedule. So I had a long time where those were the names and those were the guys and the good players on those teams that stuck around for 4 years, and you knew those guys, and they were Terp killers, and oh gosh, there's that guy again, and of course he hits the three because he always hits the three. You had a lot of that. I think we're still learning how to be Big Ten participants. I think it is a different game for real basketball people, which I don't think that's most of us, but it's fun. I think it's going to get more fun. Yes, I think next week, the week after that, maybe in March, it will be an event, right? Like you go out to watch the game or you have people over to watch the game. It definitely is rolling into that. And then look, you get into the tournament and there is no greater, stop everything else that exists in the universe on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday of that first weekend. You win 2 games, now you're really important, and that carries for years, right? So you got to do that. And then,
so what you're saying is you and I are going to hold at some point in the day between noon and midnight on Thursday, March 14th, or Friday, March 15th. I'm putting it in my calendar right now. I'm going to put it in there. March Madness with Bill Cole. We're going to do that. Maybe we'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings in Bel Air or something to do that. All right?
Right.
All right.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to put that in the calendar right now because we believe the Terps are going to get there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so if they're going to get there, why aren't you watching the games then? Why isn't Friday and Monday? I'm coming back at you now.
I watched Friday. I didn't watch Monday.
All right, so my wife watched the first half. She watched them go up by 20, then fell asleep. She didn't see the part where they pissed it all away.
Right. I didn't see that game either.
Yeah.
But so I am trying. I got to pay attention to the schedule because, the other part that's difficult is that it's not consistent, right? Like I don't have to worry about the Ravens. I know every Sunday, whether it's 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, Sunday night, or Monday, I know my team plays in there. You got to get into the swing of the Terps a little bit, and you got to plan a little bit. And I don't know. I've been trying to be a good business person and build more relationships and spend more time with people. So I haven't been home a lot in the evenings. Right?
When's the last time you went to a Terps game? Right now, tell me. When's the last time you went to a game?
Probably last season.
Oh, you did go to a game last season. Okay.
Yeah, I usually get to one. That's not the easiest thing to make in the world either. I mean, I can make plenty of excuses, as you're becoming aware of.
You know what's really funny for me? I would be way more inclined to fly to Michigan on Monday and want to see a game in East Lansing, right? I went to Purdue a couple years ago by accident, and it was phenomenal. Don Marcus tells me that the gem of the whole Big Ten, the best place to go that you wouldn't know, is Nebraska. And he said not for football, for basketball. He said you get off the plane, and they play there on February 6th, which is 3 days after the Super Bowl. So if you have any interest, I've never been to Nebraska. If you want to think about on February 6th going to Omaha, Nebraska, I would think about it. I would entertain it. I'm not saying I would really do it, but because it's been so highly recommended to me, I would do that before I would drive in traffic on a 12-degree night to go down. To some degree, it would be more interesting to me. You know what I mean? More
I agree with that.
To me, right?
I'll tell you what, though, I'm too big of a sissy because we're going to end up getting stranded in Omaha for 6 days because there's a giant snowstorm that's blowing across the middle
everybody
of the
out there that knows you and me right now sees sort of this John Candy. Right, planes, right? I mean,
I would rent a car and try and make our way back across.
I could see you and I doing that, stopping at all my favorite barbecue joints,
sure.
and in St. Louis, we would
be the greatest trip ever.
We would have our feet on Beale Street, soaking, drinking big beers in Memphis on the way back. We would just meander our way back. I mean. Maybe the government will be working then. We could stop and see my buddy Hells at the Clinton Library in Little Rock on the way back. We do a little southern turn. I get some barbecue down in Birmingham. We work our way through Atlanta. That's what we would do. It would be like the Great American Road Trip, you and me. We would get home sometime around Valentine's Day.
Right. But life would be such. I would enjoy that. I don't.
9 days on the road with you and me. You know what I mean? We make it back on the 12th in time for the Maryland game at Xfinity Center. That's what we do. They play Purdue that night. Bill Cole is here. Cole Roofing. We are talking a little Terps. He and I have talked some civic issues. We're going to do more of that in 2019. I promise, Bill, all right? I'm going to hold you responsible.
You can't talk Terps without mentioning a rumor I heard this morning, and that was that the quarterback from Alabama might be coming with the football coach.
Well, the fact that he was walking through the crowd on Friday night, they're playing Indiana, and, I said this sort of in jest, but not really. I had Mike Ashley on, who's a bit of a comedian himself and does comedy work. I said, Mike, I've discovered the secret. To what's going to make the Terps a better football team. He said, what's that? I said, better players. And, and when I saw that kid, I'm like, that's one thing that would make Maryland better. Would be better football players. I bet. So
that would just be a crazy story and a whole season, and I mean it would be pretty remarkable if that were to happen.
Well, I'm very happy about Mike Locksley. The Washington Nationals treated me like Greece went on the tour. They refused to let me in. They were mean to me. So what happened? That day, instead of swabbing at the Nationals game where we weren't allowed to swab, the University of Maryland hooked me up, and Mike Locksley and Bino and Juan Dixon, who's now the Coppin State coach, and I have my Coppin hat on. Better days ahead for Juan. They won a couple of games in the MEAC. They're doing okay. Games heard right here on WNST AM 1570, so make sure you're tuning that up and in. On our stream as well. So that day, we swabbed Mike Locksley at the Buffalo Wild Wings in College Park for the Bowmare Registry. We swabbed Juan, Bino, and Mike Locksley. We swabbed a bunch of patrons. There was a young lady fighting for her life, a Vietnamese young lady, and they helped us from the campus. And we had a lot of young Asian folks come over and get swabbed. And, of course, anyone that knows about the Bowmare Registry knows that it's lineage and heritage. And, the first thing they asked my wife when she was diagnosed is, what's your heritage? Where are you from? And my wife thought she was part Polish and part Welsh. And it turned out the guy saved her life's German and has been for a couple generations. So But anyway, I digress. So anyway, we wind up swabbing him. Mike Loxley, I swabbed him for the bone marrow registry. He's gone off to Alabama, won and lost a couple championships, and now he's back. So I don't know how it's a bad thing having a guy that loves Maryland coaching the football team. I don't know how to portray that other than someone's like, well, he's the best they could do. Yeah, the best they could do is Alabama's offensive coordinator who could bring Jalen Hurts in for a visit. Yeah, I'll accept that in the Big Ten. I mean, as well as we'll accept our beatings from Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State on occasion. But I don't think we should ever – it's like the city of Baltimore, Bill, okay? The city of Baltimore's hurting right now. We would all agree, right? But we can't accept that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't accept that we're just going to lose to Ohio State and Michigan every year. You have to say, let's go get the best football players and the best student athletes, because I'll play that game, although I think it's a joke. And, let's go play football. And I'm all for having Mike Loxley here. So I'm on his side.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest parts in evaluating these guys is that because of the social media world today, you find out about everything. And he's got a couple dings, and it's real easy to go into the camp of like, isn't there anybody that you can find that doesn't have a couple dings? And I guess from my perspective, it's more like, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find people who don't have dings, and you're better served to find out, hey, what really happened there, instead of reading, some headlines and all that. Like, I don't really know the story. I just know that there were some headlines. And so I don't really know.
Well, the FBI's going to arrest all the basketball coaches, right, at some point, right?
Sure.
They can't figure out the guy running our country and how corrupt he is, let alone, chasing around the bag man in Alabama, chasing Alabama and Auburn and Florida State and Florida and Georgia and Dabo and anybody else who can get across the border. I mean, my goodness. If we pull back the curtain in college football, I mean, I almost can't watch it. You know what I mean? Like, let alone these kids that are out. I watched the Steve Gleason story the other night. I don't know if you've seen that, by the way, but Melissa Stark did an unbelievable job. I know her. I've known her 25 years here in Baltimore, but she did a Steve Gleason piece, ESPN 360. Go see it. It's unbelievable. But I can't imagine if you pull back the curtain of football in the South, in college football, like that there's anything or anybody that would say they have integrity left. I don't know that there could be any integrity.
Well, I think maybe the goal is if they keep the government shut down long enough, there won't be any FBI agents to get in the way of March Madness, because they all got to make the money. So maybe that's actually the strategy of what's going on right now.
My bar is so low. All I want to do is when I turn on the faucet, not have Flint, Michigan's water. You know what I mean? That's how low my bar has become at this point. But
that's a reasonable request.
And I guess my bar is low at Maryland football. Kits. And part of my bar with them would be, if I was running the places, it needs to be clean and ethical. I don't care what you did in the South. I don't care. But, like, we're just not going to do it that way. You know what I mean? And I know it forced Gary Williams out, who's saying that, right? And I guess it's forced out other people of integrity to just go to the NFL and say, we'd rather just pay for play and be what we are here, as opposed to pretending we're educating student athletes down here at Clemson. Because, I just and then the cheeseburger episode this week with the goof running the country. I don't know what to say. I mean, every day it's like a Saturday Night Live skit, but cleaning up college football and worrying about that part of it, I would be worried if I were Maryland, with kids dropping dead on the campus and having that be where they are 8 months later, that whatever they're doing there, don't do anything that disgraces yourself, me, the program, the other student athletes, whatever it is. Let's at least run a clean ship here. That would be what I would want if I'm giving them money, which I'm not and probably never will. Right, but
where's the pressure to do otherwise? Like, you're the doormat, right? And it's okay that you're the doormat. No one had any higher expectation.
Well, Kevin Plank did. Kevin Plank did, by the way.
Well, they do have an issue. That is an issue.
Look. Kevin Plank has artists drawing their 2028 hobo outfits. You know what I mean? Like, literally, right? So the investment made, not to mention the heart, right? I mean, he and Bisciotti, they both are on record saying they'd buy Maryland if they could, right? Like, literally. That it's that important to them. Well, if it's that important to you, then I guess you got to cheat, right? I mean, I mean, if you're telling me that's where the system is, but if...
but no, because you and I both know that cheating to win would only lessen the value of the victory, right? Like, how good do you think the players at Northwestern feel when they're able to do what they do and then go out and win football games, right? Like, they're not supposed to win any football games.
But, dude, I'll give you an example with Clemson.
Clemson MBAs and run around running businesses.
Clemson was the filthiest program in the world most of my childhood, right? And now Dabo's running a clean program. We got student athletes. We're doing it the Alabama way here. All that. And I hear all that, and I'm like... When I think of Clemson, all I think about is Danny Ford and dirty money in my youth. You know what I mean? And they were the corrupt of the corrupt before SMU came along, and Lord knows whatever else the next, part of that. But kids dropping dead on the campus that didn't have to, that's a whole different level of, like, what the hell's going on down there. And I don't think they're doormats, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, they've been a better on-the-field program, even in the aftermath of the mess last year. They kind of held their own. They're not... It's not Indiana. I don't think they are a doormat,
I agree. All we're looking for is effort and go out and win a couple games that maybe we weren't sure you were going to. And then, you know what? If you catch lightning in the bottle, you get a couple good kids and you put a little run together, that would be that much more exciting if you're doing it right. I would not make any judgment about Clemson's cleanliness at this point in time. I
don't have any judgment. I'm just saying, like, listen. I think the whole thing's corrupt. Let's start at the top.
Right.
Like, we just went through that. We just went through that game, so it's not on Clemson. They're just doing it better and getting better student athletes and coaching them up. I mean, that's what they're doing there. But college football is so tilted that I can't even take it seriously. I don't know what else to say. I watch it and
When you talk about College Park, what I can't figure out is, as a school, they seem to have so many good things going on. And, I mean, if you look at how hard it is to get in and the type of people that they're putting out and the success that those people are having, why you would, have any issues about your sports programs, just...
Well, they don't have money. No. Here's the issue, Bill. You own a business. You like sports. You like Maryland enough to talk for 23 minutes about Maryland with me right now at deep depth. And if Ralph Friedgen walked in, you'd say, hi, Coach Fridge. And if Rand Vanderlinden walked in or Mark Duffner, you would know who they are. That's how much you know Maryland. That's how much I know Maryland. There are a lot of people who know nothing about any of that, and they're never coming, right? And then they need the people like you and me. This is where I am with John Angelos and Lou. That if I ever sat in a room with those guys and Bill Stecca organized it, or Luchasaurus put us together and we had some produce or whatnot and we got together and broke some bread and had some coffee, I would say to them, guys, I can go through my personal LinkedIn and my personal Facebook, and if I were helping you sell tickets and I had to call Bill Cole and Dennis Colatzos and every one of my sponsors and my buddies and say, I need X thousands or X hundreds, or can you buy some seats, or do you want to come out and come on out and I'm going to entertain you and I'm going to have an Oriole bird on my chest, I don't know how I would sell it, because I've been trying to sell it for 25 years with integrity behind it and honor behind it, and you've been serving us 115 losses and a lot of lies and no press conferences. You may really want to consider, while I'm still 50 and have a wallet and a credit card that I can use, trying to get me back and Bill back and Dennis back and everyone. I'm just using these examples. There's a lot of us. There's tens of thousands of us who don't go anymore. And, well, maybe not tens of thousands for the Terps, but thousands of us who don't go. And I don't know what they're going to do to get you and me to want to go down there 5 times when the Ravens are having a hard time getting us. What they need, the reason they can't fund better is the stadium's not full and the pom-pom club's not there and student athletes are dying, a generation after Len Bias, and they don't really appeal to Washington and they don't really appeal to Baltimore. And every time I'm down there, all I hear is from, people from Massapequa and, you know what I'm saying, from New York and from Jersey and whatnot. We come to College Park because we can't get to Syracuse, And so That's what I have felt all of my lifetime. I'm 50 years old. But that being said, I have a closet full of Terp stuff. We've talked for half an hour about the Terps. I even joked with you about going to East Lansing on Monday, or I wasn't joking about Nebraska. I really would do that because I'm kind of crazy. But what is it going to take for you and me to go down there and sit at an Ohio State game or a Northwestern game on a Saturday in October? I don't know. That may never be a part of my life again, Billy.
Which I think is okay, because I think what you uncovered is a structural flaw, right? So if the success of your university is relying on recruiting 50-year-olds to come to your sporting events, then your business is probably broken and you've got misalignment somewhere.
Well, look, they played Indiana Friday night. Heat team they beat to win a national championship, now in the conference, now almost a decade in the conference, with a ranked team, and the place looked half empty, and on top of half empty, well, the student athletes weren't here. Well, doesn't anybody else give a rat's ass within, you have 6 million people that live within an hour and 15 minutes of your gym, right? Like, literally.
Right, but if by those people,
I don't know what to say at that. They played Indiana. They only play 10 games a year that matter, right? Like, and this was one of them. So
I get it, but if by those people not coming, it's fundamentally messing with your budget, then what are you spending your money on?
Not sports marketing.
Well,
I don't know. I mean,
I
don't know what to say.
Facilities for the sports, right? Is it the stadiums and the arenas and where are you spending the money? Because there's misalignment. I mean, you get the TV deals and you get TV money, but you're still trying to pay for the Comcast / Xfinity Center with Gary Williams Court or whatever it's called. Like, how does people not coming to your basketball game put your university in jeopardy? It only does.
Well, and your football games, by the way.
Sure, well, all of the sports, whatever. If your budget is based on the sports teams, how fundamentally flawed is your model?
Well, but hold on. The two highest paid men in the state, I can name them right now, right? Mike Loxley and Mark Turgeon, literally, right? Like, before that it was Durkin, which was so hard to get rid of him. You know what I mean? Yes, so that's where we are in our society, and that's true in 35 states.
But put that in the budget flawed column, right? Because how does it make any sense that on the campus of a university, the highest paid person in the state, right, is the football coach or the basketball coach?
Because we have to keep up with what they do out in Ohio State and out in Michigan.
Well, do we?
Well, unless you want to get your ass kicked 63 to 6 and move down to the Towson Conference or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's where it's at. What they need to do is get people to care about it. This is the time that they need to care about it,
What impact does that have on the educating of the kids?
None.
Right. Oh, well, I guess
we're not talking about that, are we?
What's the mission of the university?
Oh.
To
win national championships?
How far away have we gotten from the mission of the school? I mean, look, universities and colleges and the tuition and all that, like, there's a bubble there, and there's some really big problems that are brewing in our higher education system, and I'm not even beginning to try and talk to you about how you fix all that. All I can tell you is that if the fact that people aren't coming to your football and basketball games is causing you problems with your ability to fund your school, then you have a fundamentally screwed up budget that is putting money in the wrong places and spending money on the wrong thing.
But when you think about it, not only are the coaches the highest paid people in the state, right, in most of these states, right, where big-time sports is played, on top of that, there's this this disconnect on the marketing side, right? The whole marketing plan for Clemson, which literally is a little village in the woods in South Carolina, literally, right? It's a little town village in the middle of nowhere. Their marketing budget is their football team. Their football team is their marketing plan. It's how people in Minnetonka, Minnesota would know what the hell Clemson is. No one would know what Clemson is if they didn't have a football team. Like, literally. It is their marketing. It's how they fund it is. I mean, that's what it's become over the last 50 years at Penn State, at Alabama, pick any of the Texas universities or any of the California universities. They're known. I mean, yeah, do they save lives? Do they have medicine? Do they fund science? Do they put men on the moon? Yeah, that's part of the TV commercial. But nobody looks at the University of wherever, Texas at Austin, and said, man, they have astronauts that went there. No, they have like the kicker that sings in the Royal Farms commercials. That's what they have. That's what they do. They do kickers. They do football there. Hook 'em horns. So I think for all these universities, they're all known as sports universities for the most part, unless you're a cooking school or unless you're Harvard, right? Like, Stanford might be known for more, right? I guess.
Call me altruistic or whatever, but I get it. I guess all I'm saying is how screwed up is all that? Because
amazingly so. Yes.
Because really, I mean, what is the economical, societal improvements that come out of having a university systems that are driven to have great football and basketball teams so that they can recruit more students so what?
Well, one of the issues of getting rid of Durkin was the expense of doing the right thing, right? Picking up the tab from the program, the budget, the real money, who's going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? And I think they've been wondering that. Honest to God, and Bill, I'll wrap it with you on this, and I'll give you your 2 cents on the Ravens or the Orioles, anything you want to throw in here. Bill Cole from Cole Roofing here. I'll just wrap it by saying, since they put the shovel in the dirt down there, right? Since Debbie, put the shovel in the dirt, that has been the question. Who's going to pay for it, right? And I think that's one of the reasons Gary Williams said, good luck with that. Go find your next guy, right? Who's going to pay for it? And they added an upper deck to Bird Stadium that they can't even find Michigan fans that want to sit in. and when it comes to these Ohio State and Michigan games, they're better off selling them to Baltimore or to FedEx anyway, to some degree, right? They could sell more tickets and get more hotel rooms and get the city to put up a bid and Maryland Stadium Authority and whatnot. Bill, anything you got on the Ravens or the Orioles? Because I sort of led you and meandered you in those directions. By the way, opening day, March 28th on a Thursday in New York. Opening day in Baltimore, April 4th, also a Thursday here. Also against the New York Yankees. So I'm reminding everybody, how far are we? You tell me if you feel like April 4th sounds like a long time or not, but that's where we are.
Yeah, maybe a long time. I'm not sure. No, I think that's all good stuff. I think we got a little bit into the weeds, and, I just get frustrated with some of the, I get plenty of joy watching those sports teams play. Well, maybe more heartbreak than joy, but you get my point. I just like to discuss with you, let's talk at a higher level about, why these things are the way they are and why people choose to make terrible decisions or why it wasn't easy for them to fire the coach after the player died. And
I don't know that it was a terrible decision to leave the ACC. That was money too. That was when the shovel went in the ground, there went the ACC because they could no longer afford that anymore, and the only way to afford that was to make the football team, right? Literally, bringing Wake in here every year wasn't ringing the bell, and the television network and the money and the D.C. Baltimore thing and the greed of the Big Ten, right? Feeding the machine of the Big Ten, Chicago, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Detroit. Not good enough. Nah. We need to have Kansas City and St. Louis. We need to have New York. We need to have Baltimore. We need to have and that's where this whole thing went, right? It was a WWE. It could no longer be a regional franchise. It needed to be worldwide.
But those were all decisions because of decisions that were made prior to, and on the surface of ACC Big Ten decision, I think everybody says, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I get that, right? You don't want to be the only one left in the ACC anyway, and this is better money and blah blah blah. So you get that. But the real question, you got to go up higher than that. You got to say, what is the purpose of this? Why are we doing that? Why, what's the purpose of our university? How can we make the university better? What are we adding to the country, to the society, to the people, to the students, to the families? That's the part that I think everybody's missing. Those are the conversations that they're missing at the college level. Yeah, they don't seem to be too concerned about any of that stuff.
You know what's crazy, man? I'm looking at their schedule right now, and I don't want to be rude. I've been thinking about a lot of other things in the world and life the last month, and the Ravens and bus trips to New England and stuff. But I've looked down, as we sit here, the championship games are this weekend. We're going to watch those. It's going to be cold here, all that stuff. They're on the road, Ohio State Friday, Michigan Monday. They only play 6 more home games. Like, they're on fire now, and they're right.
Yeah.
So you and I have to look at our schedule and have to say, well, I can't do the Illinois game or the Northwestern game. Well, Illinois is in New York. That's not even home. They only have 5 home games. They're at Northwestern on the 29th. They have at home. Then they play Purdue on the 12th of February at home. The 23rd of February, they're home against Ohio State. And then the 3rd, Michigan, and the 8th of March, Minnesota. So there's only 5 home games left that if you and I really want to put a night together and go down and see a game, we really have a couple of opportunities, left.
Sure.
And I guess my point is, and I'll go right back to the beginning on this, if you're a Maryland fan, this is as good as it gets. You're a top 25 team. You're winning games. You have big games. And if it's not crescendoed into people wanting to be there, people on my timeline, people getting excited, people wanting to talk about it, I don't know what they've done wrong, to your point, over the last 20 years to not build this bigger and better when they move to the Big Ten. They've failed at a lot of levels, and I don't know that it's been on the court, on the field, or whatever, but they failed to capture the imagination and be the love mark, that they need to be as an institution. And this is one of those times where, to your point, they start to win. This is where the love comes. This is where somebody buys a Maryland ad or buys a ticket or buys a memory or goes down there. There's only 5 more chances to go down there and really interact with it, I guess is my point,
Yeah, I think you'll see the conversation pick up. I think everybody turns their focus once football kind of comes to a completion, and then mid-February it's like only basketball out there, and then March it's crazy time, and so I think you'll see the rhetoric and the conversations and all that pick up at a much, much faster pace.
Go save people's roofs during this the terrible period of cold here. Bill Cole from Cole Roofing. Tell everybody how to find you real quick, because we've been jibber-jabbing here about the Terps as we've been known to do. See, some weeks you provide therapy to me, and some weeks you get me more heated. I want to dive further into this. So
right.
The next person I talk to will pay a severe price for you and I going at it like this.
They can always find us at coleroofing.com. 100-year-old commercial roofer, taking care of the Baltimore area, surrounding counties, for an awfully long time. I, fortunately, have not been there for 100 years, so we'll find someone who's not 100-year-old to climb up on your roof and help you fix your problems.
I need a new mug. I didn't steal one at the Accelerant event last week. By the way, Ben Utek was great, wasn't he?
He is. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, we had him on the show this week, too. So you can find that out in the buy.toyota.com audio vault. Bill Cole hitting the road. You can find me also in the morning newspaper. It comes digitally to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where they're getting you in the best shape of your life in 2019 for just $10 a month. You can't beat it. There's a Planet Fitness right around the corner from you. Also racing down at Laurel this weekend. A little chilly down there. They had to cancel one a couple Sundays ago in the snow. But they are staying open for business down there all winter long, getting ready for the Triple Crown season at Laurel. Find the entries at the front of WNST.net as well as in our morning newspaper. And you can subscribe. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.